when you look at inland West Africa, much of it is very dry and it's getting drier. Burkina Faso is very dry. Mali, 9% of the people in the country of Mali can read. And on average, the gross domestic product, the amount of money a person makes on average in Mali, is $200. That's less than $1 a day. It's pitiful. Niger has been, quote, neglected by the United Nations. It's a very dry country and it's very poor, but it does have uranium, and that's the only way it's getting money. So it's selling uranium to whoever it can sell it to, the North Koreans, the Iranians, Pakistan, whoever. Chad has goats that live in trees, which are very intriguing to me. So I had to show this picture of goats and trees. They have been dealing with the people fleeing from Sudan, from Darfur, and they have their own ongoing civil conflict also. Here's Nigeria. Nigeria has 3 major tribes, which I talked about before, but it also has 2 major religions. Muslims in the north, so Sharia law in the north, and Christians or pseudo-Christians in the south. Nigeria has a very large population, and there's been a separatist movement going on in the Niger River, where the Igbos live, because the Niger River is where a lot of oil is found. And the Igbos say, well, this oil is our oil, so the profits from that oil should go back to us, not to the people in the northern part of the country who don't live where the oil does. Think of it kind of like Texas. That guy's wearing a Texas bandana, by the way. These are some of the separatists from the Igbo tribe. In Texas, there's a lot of oil. And the money that comes back to the people and to the state, a lot of it goes into the state funds for the oil, but some of it goes to the federal government too. In Nigeria, it doesn't go to the state at all. It goes directly to the federal government, and that money is dispersed out to everyone. So the Igbo think this is unfair. Nigeria, they also grow peanuts, palm oil, cotton, and they are a member of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Sharia law is the Islamic law based on the Quran. I've told you about this before. Things like no adultery, no robbery, no premarital sex. There's a ban on alcohol, no dice or card games. You can be punished by being flogged. You can you can have a finger cut off or hand cut off, or you can be stoned to death. A mob can gather together and stone you with stones and kill you. And there are limitations on what women can wear, women can drive, things like that. Even the limit goes as far as women running track. This lady from Bahrain right here, she's very fast, but she is forced to be covered from head to toe and can only have this little bit of her face shown, compared to the lady right behind her, which is just the opposite. She has very little on. Maybe it's encumbering her, I don't know, but just an example that you see worldwide. The OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Here it is. Nigeria is part of it, so is Venezuela. Most of the countries, though, are in northern Africa and Southwest Asia, and there's also Indonesia. They control the amount of oil that's shipped out and the price of that oil. Central Africa is dominated by the jungle of the Congo, which is a rainforest. This is also where the rumble in the jungle occurred. This was George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali. It's a very famous boxing match. It happened in Kinshasa. But they produce a lot of timber, ivory from tusks, which are illegal, rubber, and it was once called Zaire. Congo is going through a civil war, and you see this predominant theme of civil wars. In Rwanda, there was a large genocide. A large group of people were killed. The Hutus were killed in Rwanda back in 1995. The ones that were left over fled to Congo. In eastern Congo, you also have this mineral called tantalum, which is used, it's right there. Tantalum is used in a lot of circuit boards, processing boards of computerized equipment, but it's only found here. The problem is it's very expensive and it's controlled by a group of people who are not of the government. So they're selling it to China, who's making these products, and these products are then going out to the rest of the world. Um, but the money to buy this is funding some of these guerrilla groups in the eastern part of Congo, and the leader of that is a guy named Laurent Nkunda. Has super long fingers, interesting, but he's the leader of the group that's funding this civil war in eastern Congo. 2009, there was a massacre there. They'll just go and raid a city and just kill hundreds or thousands of people. It's not pretty. Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa is known for its distance runners. People from Kenya. Actually, this guy's from Morocco. I just realized that. He's not from East Africa. But if you watch the Olympics, all the guys that run the marathons or run anything over 10,000 meters, they're going to be people from Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. Those are the big distance running countries. Ethiopia is dry. It is predominantly Christian, but it's Coptic Christian, so it's a different kind of Christianity from, say, Catholicism or Baptist or Church of God or something like that. It is very mountainous, and it's actually where coffee originated from. Eritrea is predominantly Muslim, and it's next door neighbor, and it's been fighting with Ethiopia for years. We also have Somalia, which has a very unstable government. It's very dry. It's been at war with itself for many years, and it has an overfarming of land. And this lack of government control and the lack of control of the land has led to a lot of fishermen who aren't able to sell their goods in ports. So they said, well, we own boats, but we can't fish because we can't sell our goods because it's not safe. Might as well become pirates. So they become pirates, and they take ships and hold them for ransom. The Ethiopians are actually trying to help the old Somali regime. Eritrea is trying to support the Islamists, the Al-Shabaab, who are in Somalia. Uganda's also sent troops, and the U.S. is trying to not go back into Somalia because there's a lot of trouble in Somalia. And these are Somali pirates. There they are on their little ships. They might shoot a rocket-propelled grenade or shoot at a ship, and the ship stops. Then they board the ship and hold it for ransom because they have lots of guns. Most of these are fishermen, or used to be fishermen, that lost their jobs due to unstable government. And the Somali government can't control them because they're too busy trying to keep the Somali government intact. Since 2006, this number is probably a little higher now. There have been probably around 70 captured ships, a lot of failures, a lot of releases. And the pirates have gathered over $75 million in ransom. Now the U.S. government is patrolling these waters to make sure that the Somali pirates don't take any more ships. We have countries like Kenya, which does very well. It's not going through a civil war or anything. It actually does very well for itself. It grows coffee, so does Tanzania. It's very friendly to the U.S. and it welcomes tourism. So does Tanzania. The Serengeti is a big, huge game reserve where a lot of people go to see the lions and zebras and everything else out in the wild. And so these two countries are two of the safer countries in Africa to go to. They're very great to go when you go on like a safari. These are the two you want to go to. Uganda is very wet and mountainous, rain-wise wet. It had a ruler named Idi Amin. If you've ever seen the movie The Last King of Scotland, it's about him, and he controlled Uganda with an iron fist, and he started going crazy. He started losing his mind at one point. Eventually, he died. Rwanda. Now, 1995 in Rwanda, you had these two groups of people, the Hutus and the Tutsis. The Hutus are the tribe that were in control, but they were smaller. The Tutsis had more people, but they weren't the ones in control. So the Tutsis started passing out machetes. And on the signal, which was actually a plane being shot down, when that plane was shot down, the Tutsis started just raiding, killing a lot of Hutus, and they just kept killing. In 100 days, they killed 800,000 people. And the world sat by and did nothing for 100 days. 800,000 people. It's 8,000 people every day that were killed in 1995 in Rwanda. It's just a sad thing to think about. Today in Uganda, if you've ever heard of the Invisible Children, there's a guy named Joseph Kony who is recruiting, stealing, kidnapping children to fight in his army, the Lord's Resistance Army, to fight in southern Sudan and in northern Uganda. And he finally got caught, actually, this year. This is the first time he's ever been caught. But he would kidnap children and force them to fight. And so the Invisible Children was one of the groups that helped make the world aware of what was going on here. And Kony has been stopped. The child abductions have stopped for the most part. And Uganda, especially northern Uganda, where all this happens, is now a safer place.